And when I talk about security, we're not just talking about, physical security, being able to clock in, clock out, being able to, access things. We're talking about your network security, your endpoint security, your cloud security. And I say is how are you protecting yourself? Any security of any form, this is like a layered cake because you still have people that work in the office. There's so many aspects to that right there. And that's a topic I absolutely love and enjoy.
Welcome, and bienvenidos. Thank you for joining us on the podcast, Tech and Tequila. If you don't know who I am, I'm Kat Lopez Shelby, and I'm the founder and CEO of Shelby Technology Solutions. But more importantly, you're here for Tech and Tequila, where we learn a lot about tech and we may have some nice tequila drinks while we're at it. If you're new here, Tech and Tequila is all about everything technology based for your business. So what that means is we have suppliers on here to talk about how they can help you grow your business. We, have mindset coaches on here talking about how to help you grow your business. We're all about business and basically introducing you to different suppliers and different ways that help you within your business.
Hello, and thank you for joining me for Tech and Tequila today. If you're new to this podcast, here is a place where we talk about techs, and sometimes we have a wonderful tequila drink at the same time. Now, obviously, we're very close to Christmas today, and I'm not sure when this is going to be actually posted up. So, I would definitely recommend trying a good mistletoe margarita or a cranberry fizz. Those are two of my favorite right now. But the idea about Tech and Tequila is that we want you to think of your tech stack after a long day and know that it is working for you. So you can have a nice tequila drink and not feel you need to have a drink because your tech is not working for you. That is not the idea. Tech and Tequila is the place where you learn about what tech can do for your business and how it can help connect you with your customers. How can it help me with my bottom line? How can I get a return on investment on whatever I purchase? The big thing right now, obviously, is AI, automation, customer experience, social media, in all of its forms. So whether you have a small, medium, or a big business or enterprise business, this is going to be the place for you. So since today is our first since today is the first episode, I'm going to spend a few minutes going over a couple of the different technologies that we're going to cover over the next, couple weeks or during this podcast. And I want to kind of break them down for you because I know a lot of times we talk about things, or at least in my space, and people just kind of stare at me and are like, what? What are you talking about? So, I'm going to start out kind of at the basics. And when I say that, it's when you're starting your business, when you think about, whether you're going to work from home, whether you're going to be online only, you're going to have brick and mortar. Some of the important things to think about is your connectivity. And so connectivity is basically that's your internet. I mean, it's the backbone of everything that we do. I mean, obviously, if we didn't learn anything from 2020, we learned how important it was to be able to have access to a solid internet service and have Zoom. And I'm with a lot of people working from home or working in co-working spaces. It is something that's vital. And, connectivity covers, you have your fiber, you have your cable, you have wireless, you have satellite, you have, obviously along with that is TEM services. But one of the other things that a lot of times get missed is SD-WAN, and that's your software defined wide area network. And one of the things that we'll discuss on here in an episode coming up is about network priority and how that can really help move your business from point A to point B, or at least make sure that everything's staying up that's supposed to. I'm not going to tell you who, but I had a client that had a secretary that was watching Netflix and causing quite a bit of mayhem on their network for a while. Some of the other things that we talk about is managed services, so managed services is going to cover, NOC, your SOC, professional services, smart support, asset management, and if those things, and if you're hearing this list going, what is she talking about? Don't worry. We're going to go in depth and discuss it all. I would be amiss if I didn't talk about my absolute favorite subject, and that's security. And when I talk about security, we're not just talking about, physical security, being able to clock in, clock out, being able to, access things. We're talking about your network security, your endpoint security, your cloud security. We're talking about SASE. We're talking about all different kinds of things. And I say, and even down to, and I include this in security, is how are you protecting yourself, with your social media? How are you protecting your company along the way? And I always tell people that any security of any form, this is like a layered cake. So it's not going to be like, oh, we put a firewall in, we patch, we update, we do everything we're supposed to do. We're good, right? Because you still have email, you still have people that work in the office. There's so many aspects to that right there. And that's a topic I absolutely love and enjoy to go over. One of the other things that your tech stack can include, but is not, obviously limited to, is going to be your customer experience. And customer experience to me is so important in this day and age, because customer experience is, are your customers able to get a hold of you when they need to? Are you having to answer a lot of the same questions? I personally know that, like, I bank with this itty bitty credit union and from my hometown, which you can figure out my hometown by looking at my information on LinkedIn. But one of the things that annoys the Jesus out of me is I cannot check my balance just over the phone. Now they do have online access, but there's not a quick way when I need to just check it over the phone. And that could be something that could be easily fixed. So I cross my fingers and toes every day that they'll fix it or we'll get something done. But customer experience is going to cover a myriad of different technologies. And one of those is UCaaS. I like to say, this is your phone system in the cloud. UCaaS stands for Unified Communications as a Service. That's kind of a lot to say, but really what you're looking at is your phone system. And a lot of the things that businesses, whether it be small, medium, or large, can take advantage of with that is improving customer experience. And how are you going to improve customer experience? I mean, obviously you have the auto attendant, which is great, but a lot of these systems have ways that your customers can connect with you. They have ways that you can add chat bubbles to your websites. They have ways that you can connect with text messaging, which I'm telling you right now, if you can message or have a chat, it's a lot faster than some people picking up the phone. Another thing is obviously going to be contact center, CPaaS, SMS is SMS analytics is a part of that, and obviously artificial intelligence. One of the other things is, we'll talk a little bit about cloud infrastructure. And when I say that, we'll talk about cloud infrastructure, but that is basically the idea. So, in the past, if you had a brick and mortar, you had like servers on site, you had all this, but now, most people are going to move things to the cloud, because why do you want to go to the cloud? Is it just to be closer to our Lord and Savior? No, not really. The cloud is a little more complex than that, but it's the idea that there's different forms of cloud. There's way to have storage. It builds backup redundancy, which is super important. And when I say there's public, private, hybrid, you have data center, you have co-location, you have disaster recovery. And that's when I talk about, having continuity. And of course, there's kind of some of the basics that you deal with all the time, and that's things that make our life a lot easier. So whether you're using QuickBooks, you're using a CRM or what, there's software as a service. So, that's going to encompass Microsoft, Google, ERP, CRMs, customer management software, productivity, business applications, IT management, all of the above. And last but not least, one of my new favorite things to talk about is energy. And I know there's people out there saying, what? Why are we talking about energy? You're talking about tech. But I want you to think about all the different things that as a business that you have access to. So whether that's, if you have brick and mortar, you've got gas, you've got electric, you've got water, you've got waste. But, another thing can be, and this is actually kind of a business and a whole discussion on its own, is like EV charging stations. What kind of offerings do you have, especially for, hotels, boutiques, hotel boutiques, things like that, or making, one of the clients that I work with, and we're working on that, is making their business center a destination spot for anyone who's coming into town by having EV charging. Those are all super important. I know we touched on it a little bit, but one of the big topics that is rolling around all the time is AI. And what all does AI do? And so obviously we understand that, you have artificial intelligence and you can use that for copy with such things as like Chat GPT and Lavender AI. But what all can AI do for your business? When you really think about it, like what types of things? And it's has a lot to do with how are you going to use it? You can use AI to automate tasks. You can use AI to improve analytics. You can use AI in that manner to make smarter decisions. But a lot of the emerging trends have to do with, natural language processing. So if you're not really aware of exactly what that is, AI is being used for like answering phone calls for large companies. I won't say which ones, but there's a major convenience chain like a 7-Eleven or a Kent Quick. If you'll know if you're in West Texas and Texas around what Kent Quick is, but where they actually have AI instead of having like a person on the back answering questions and going through and what that looks like, obviously you have machine learning, which has been around for a long time, but, let's just face it, AI is here to stay. And with it comes the pros, which is increased productivity and, operational efficiencies and some of the errors, which is, if you're not careful, you can leave yourself open to things that you may not know. So it's really things to think about. That is huge right now. And one of the other things that's really popular is automation. And automation can mean everything from, automating the way a customer interacts with you. And when I say that, I just had a call here recently with one of our clients, and their whole thing is as they go into the summer months, they want to be so much more efficient. They want someone to be able to go to their website. They want them to basically put all the information in, get everything situated, be able to pop out a quote, and if needed, sign and pay all at once. So they're really automating this, what would normally be, okay, I'm on the phone, for somebody who's going to call in at 12, maybe 1 a.m. or in a hurry early in the morning. And obviously that helps with customer experience, go through the process. But really all automation is the technique of making something operate more automatically, streamlining that, and how important that can be for your business and what that really means. What does that look like? What could be easier? And I know I've discussed it a couple of times, but obviously when we think of social media, the main thing that we think of doing with our business is that, blah. Okay, X-nay that out, and I'm going to start that section. Obviously, when we think of social media, we think about the importance in your business and how to protect yourself. But social media is not just about how you connect with customers. It can be, but one of the things that I've seen here recently, and I don't want to say it's a trend, obviously we're key holiday peak season. So I like to say this is DDoS season because anybody who's going to have a DDoS attack and is unprotected, now is the time to do it because people's networks are so important, especially with, sales during the holiday. That just totally went off topic and rambled. So maybe ixnay that out completely. But really, so I'm going to go back. I'm struggling on this social media, guys, so just bear with it. But when we talk about social media, one of the things that has been a trend and I have dealt with here lately, and it has been, when I say extreme, I don't go a week where I don't have a customer calling me saying something has either happened with their business social media account or something is going on. And so I wanted to cover real quickly a couple of steps that you can take as a business owner, as someone who deals with social media. So whether you are the marketing company or you're the business owner, I always say number one is make your password super difficult to guess. So if you can see it on like your Facebook or anywhere else, if it's your husband's date of birth, if it's something like that, then no, can't do it. Like, don't put it in there. Make it hard. Make it uppercase, lowercase, symbols, substitute numbers for letters, make it hard to remember. The other thing is that I would really say, make sure that you set up multi-factor authentication. And a side note to that is make sure that you're testing your multi-factor authentication periodically. Nobody likes to change their passwords, but I always say a good rule of thumb is change it at least once every 3 months. It's not going to make you. Most of us forget our passwords before then, but if you don't, check to see what is your multi authentication. The other thing is set up an authenticator. If you haven't done that before, they're super easy to download. There's a couple of different options, and it literally walks you step by step through it. Part of this is that when normally I talk to a client and they're dealing with some type of social media, we'll say incident, event, whatever, it's because, okay, now we're locked and we can't get in, we can't access it. And what I usually do is I start the discussion to find out, how did this happen? Now, was your personal social media is affected? Have you recently had an employee leave? Did you make sure that you took them off as an administrator? Did you answer a message in your social media? So whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or whatever, in which it, said, oh my goodness, we're going to delete your page, click on this or else. And I always tell people, especially my clients, is that it's so important that when you get a message like that, before you do anything, number one, take a step back and take a breath. Like, will you get messages like that? Possibly. But I can tell you right now that 100% of the ones that we've received on, our business social media have been fake. And when I say fake, usually my go-to response is like, okay, what is this about? And just return it, but I don't click on anything. Or I look and it'll say like user 9864225, whatever. Obviously, you're not going to get a message from any of the main social media companies when it's that. And some of them are like, they look very legitimate. And this goes back to the same thing with any type, whether it's just on social media or it's email. They will look absolutely legitimate. They will even have the address for Facebook or whomever on the bottom, or like via email, kind of switching back and forth here. It'll have the address, the headquarters of a bank. And it's something that you should always watch out for to protect yourself from. And last but not least, this is kind of a no-brainer. I say it's a no-brainer. This is one of those things. If you use any type of scheduling assistant for your social media, so are you using Planoly? Are you using Hootsuite? Are you using Social Pilot? Whatever you're using, if all of a sudden you look on your social media and there is something on there that you're like, there's no way I put that up. There's no way my marketing person put that up. Something is legit. Start as quickly as possible to figure out what's going on. And you have to kind of work backwards, like, where did this happen? And that's why, obviously you can put everything in place, which goes into a little bit bigger of a conversation. So I'm going to apologize ahead if I ramble a little when it talks about security, but it's a lot to cover and it's a lot to think about. When I interact with a business or anyone from my company does, I like to make sure, and we like to make sure that people understand that protecting your business from a security standpoint is like a layered cake. It's not like, and this is not like a sheet cake where you just throw it in the oven, you put icing on top and, lettering and you're done. There's no form of protecting your business in which it's kind of like a one and done situation. It's always like, we want to put everything in place to keep you as protected as possible, but we also want to have everything in place. So if something happens, like, what do we do? What is the plan of action from there? Like, okay, so your social media was breached. All right, so what's the first thing we do? If we can't get into the social media, how do we reach out to our community, to our customers, to our clients, and let them know, hey, if you see anything, this is not legit. Obviously it's great if you have an email list and you can send it out. And I cannot tell you how the importance of having a really good email list is, but that's one of the things I think is so, having that plan to say, okay, this happened, here's what we're going to do. I can tell you it can save you a lot of stress and you won't be drinking tequila trying to make up for everything that you're having to deal with. Yeah, I think I kind of went on that rabbit hole long enough. So, really everything that Tech and Tequila is about is going to be, how can you make your technology work for your business and different trends? And where I'm going to introduce you to different suppliers you may not have heard of and something you may not have thought about at all. And you're like, wow, that's a great idea. That's something I should look into. All of those things. So, on some of our upcoming shows, we're going to take a much deeper dive into AI. I am not an AI specialist, so I want to have someone on here that has the ability to do it. We're going to have some amazing guest suppliers. We're going to have Grado US, we're going to have Smart Action and Big Leaf. And, we're going to have some great business coaches on here. I know that business coaches doesn't have to do with tech, but I really want to make sure that when we're talking about business, I like to take a little holistic view at it. And a good business coach, just think you can never have too much on here. And as always, we'll cover any hot topics. So whether it's something like Okta getting hacked or, what was it? 123 DNA getting hacked, we'll discuss that and kind of go over that and have great guests. So thank you so much for joining today. I hope you are having a wonderful holiday. That's it. Thank you. As always, thank you so much for tuning in for another insightful episode of Tech and Tequila. We hope you enjoyed our conversation. To stay up to date on all things about tech and more, don't forget to visit our website at www.shelbyts.com. And of course, check us out on all our social media. If you loved what you heard, remember to show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our podcast. Your 5-star ratings and reviews mean the world to me and help us reach more listeners like yourself so they can get a little more information about Tech and Tequila. Join us next time for another thrilling dive into the world of technology and innovation. Until then, stay curious, stay tech savvy, and remember, a little tequila never hurts when you're discussing groundbreaking ideas and ending a day when your tech has worked amazing for you. So, cheers and see you on the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Tech and Tequila. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. To stay updated about all things tech and more, don't forget to visit us at our website, shelbyts.com. If you loved what you heard, remember to show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our podcast. Your 5-star ratings and reviews mean the world to us and help us to reach more listeners just like you. So muchas gracias again for joining us with Tech and Tequila. Thank you so much. You learned a lot about tech, and maybe you had a nice drink of tequila.